How are things?
Good.
This meeting is being recorded.
Meeting's being recorded now.
Apparently we're being recorded.
Yeah, those the Zoom alerts you get. It's such a weird new world where you get used to all that stuff.
Isn't it? Yeah. How many Zooms have you been doing as of late? Less than the pandemic, obviously, but none.
It's a probably on par with the pandemic, honestly, because I was kind of in a little bit of a bubble. I was working on I've been scoring stuff. I've been doing movies and TV and stuff, and and it's weird because it's a very isolating job. You just kind of hang out by yourself in a room anyway. So like I barely noticed the pandemic, you know. Yeah.
What were the shows and the movies? Have they already out, or are they coming up?
Yeah, some of them. There's a little kid Spider-Man show, Spidey and His Amazing Friends. There's a horror movie. Yeah, I did a horror movie called Black Friday that was really fun with Bruce Campbell is in it, and that was really fun. Yeah. So I've been like doing lots of stuff.
Bruce Campbell's a fun guy because he's a Michigan guy. So anytime you're from the Midwest, he's just immediately like your best friends.
I know, right? Well, and there's something specific about being from like Great Lakes Midwest. You know what I mean? Like that's it's another layer where it's like, oh yeah, no, we're really like I feel like that's one of the things that a lot of people I didn't even realize how much we all have that same, like it's all the same accent pretty much. It's a variation, but it's pretty close. You know what I mean?
There's a Chicago, there's a northern Wisconsin, there's a bit of a Michigan one, depending on which Michigan you go to.
Yep.
Speaking of other collaborations, I'm kind of dying to know. I know you guys did a Beach Boys tribute for the Grammys a while ago. Can you divulge what song you guys did?
I really don't know. I don't know if I'm allowed to. I'm always the worst guy to ask because I don't know what the thing is. You know, like we were in an interview one time, or not an interview. It was a meeting, maybe like 6 months ago or something. We were meeting with the new label, you know, because we signed with Fuel Ramen again, and Pete made some comment about the album title or whatever, you know, or somebody asked the album title, and he's like, "Oh, we have we're kicking around a couple," and I was like, I thought we had one. I thought we knew one. You know, I didn't pick up that we were playing the like, you know, mystery game. You know, where I was like, I just earnestly was like, no, I thought we had the title. I don't know what's going on.
You're honest to a fault.
Yeah, I guess so. Yeah.
You're like, you guys got to get all on the same page, and you walk into that kind of stuff. So much for Stardust. We do know now is the full name. I do have to say, and I didn't realize this until I guess a couple days ago, that it's now the 20th anniversary of Take This to Your Grave, which
man,
obviously fans love doing 20th anniversaries, but you're going to be busy the rest of the year. Is there going to be anything coming out a 20th anniversary or no?
I would imagine there would have to be some acknowledgement of it, but it's weird because like you said, I didn't really realize it either. When we started working on the record, you know, it wasn't really in my you know, in my sights in terms of like what our plans were. So then it popped up like, oh yeah, like in fact, I think the record's going to be released. Isn't it like, it's like scarily close to like 20 years to the day, I think.
I believe it was spring I think it was spring of 2003. I just remember summer of 2003. I was stuck on an airplane in Atlanta heading back to Madison where I was living at the time. And I had the CD, obviously. And well, not obviously, I guess, but I did have the CD.
Obvious to us.
I was stuck on the tarmac for an hour and I listened to the album for the second time only. And then I just kept on listening to it. And I'm just like, I won't forget this. I will remember. I just loved every track. I'm reading all the liner notes to it, which is why I always love the CD. And just thinking, I really love the liner notes. So it's just like, I just realized that talking. I'm like, okay, we're 20 years in, but you guys always seem like a bit of a more forward band. I don't know how nostalgic you don't seem to get crazy nostalgic, but you're surrounded by now 30-somethings and sometimes 40-somethings that are nostalgic with you. And it's got to be a kind of a push me, pull you kind of feel as a band where you're like, yep, we did that album. And you're like, can we talk about our new album?
Yeah, well, I think it's, you know, you bring up a good point, because one of the things that's always been weird about us is that we don't really dwell in the past. So, you know, every record we kind of move forward, but we also, you know, we're one of those bands that never really stopped playing any of those songs. So we'll still, we play, if I think it's funny. I'll talk to people sometimes, and it's pretty. You can always tell when someone hasn't seen us since like Warped Tour, because like they're like, you probably aren't playing any of the old stuff. I'm like, no, man, we never really stopped playing. It's just you rotate newer songs in, and the set. It's weird. Like, I think I've always been a people pleaser. I like to make people happy as much as possible, right? And there's a part of you as as an artist that's like, maybe I'm tired to play this song, but I can't not. This is the audience wants to hear this, and now we have so many of those songs that like you barely get to choose anymore. You're like,
yeah, I'd
oh, but
imagine.
I have to, and but we always kept those songs in the rotation and kept those things part of us, so I never really felt, because of that, I never felt the need to like go back to it. You know what I mean? Like we never left it almost,
The reason I bring it up is about a year and a half ago when you guys played the Hella Mega Tour here in Milwaukee. That set list just was perfect. It's just what we're talking about. You kind of peppered in the new stuff, and you guys know, you're like, some people get turned off to the new stuff, especially like you said, if the last time they saw you was Fans Warped Tour, they're like,
yeah,
well, this is a new song, I'm going to take a piss. And you're like, you come back, you're like, there's some old stuff. What a great job that you guys did. And then it was Weezer, then you, and then obviously Green Day. It didn't disappoint. Like when you see it on paper, those bands coming, and it was just that good. It looked fun.
That was an amazing tour. It's kind of surreal that we did it. It's one of those things that, I'm almost in disbelief that we were able to. It's weird. I was talking to Rivers the other day from Weezer, and it was so strange because now we toured with them. We've known Rivers for years, and he's in the video and all that. So it was very mundane. It was like, oh, how you been? What's going on? And it just kind of hit me. I got this little, sting of this moment where I was like, you were a god to me. You know what I mean? Like I was obsessed with Weezer. I was obsessed with Green Day. So, it wasn't just like, it was this other level of like, like I said, it's like an out of body thing where you're like, how is this happening? Like how am I, I'm just some moron, and I'm out on tour, we're playing, we played some stadiums with Green Day, and it's like weird. It's very, very weird.
But it's so better. It's so good to hear that rather than just kind of name drop, just hanging out with Green Day, as I'm apt to do. You appreciate it. People like love that. None of this is ever lost to me because I never know when the last time I'm going to talk to somebody, or if they get too big, they'll never talk to. Somebody's like, oh, fuck radio. You're like, I'm gonna go do Joe Rogan or something like that. You're like, so anytime I do something, I'm like, man, I love when you have that passion, especially after 20 years. It's easy to lose it.
Well, and it's, what you just said about, you wonder, you always go like, I don't know, who knows if this will be the last time or whatever. That was something that I really wanted to bring into the record was like, I used to work at a used record store in Des Plaines, Illinois. And one of the things is that when you work at a used record store, you get really acquainted with all of the failures, with all the records they put out, because that's what people bring to the used record store. They don't sell you their favorite one.
No.
And so you get really acquainted with when the band falls off or when the band breaks up or when the band whatever. And so that's always been something that's been in my, I'm like, a lot, who knows, so every time, not every time, but some of my favorite records that we made kind of were with that in mind. I remember telling my parents when we made Cork Tree, I remember telling them like, okay, we got signed, we're doing the major label thing. I'm gonna, go do this, and then it'll probably fail, and I'll go to school. Okay, that was kind of like the deal. And this one, I was kind of like, I kind of got back to that where I was like, bands don't get that many spins at the wheel, as it were. It's not like you're gonna please everybody every album. So like, who knows, this might be our record that everyone hates and they whatever. So I was like, so put it all out there and put everything into it.
What would be your benchmark? What would be your benchmark for if it didn't succeed? How would you determine that?
I think it already has, to me, because the audience, like when we played the Metro, and we played Love from the Other Side, people already sang along to it. That was pretty much it.
Okay.
Good. You just don't know. You know what I mean? Like my aim is pretty low. You know, it's not like I'm trying to, but you know, like I said, you see a lot of these records that, you know, bands just, you know, they start doing it because they have to. They start, you know, they stop liking each other. You know, we're very lucky that we all get along. I mean, that's magical. It's a miracle, really. So, you know.
You mentioned Rivers before. What came first, the idea of you guys kidnapping him in a video, or the song "Heartbreak Feels So Good"? Did you was a little chicken and the egg question, I guess.
The song came first. Okay. But I think that was a Pete idea. Pete tends to come up with the video ideas, but I think that was one of his. And I loved it. It was just so funny. And Rivers was so funny in the moment. I don't know. There's this little moment. I don't know if you can hear it in the video.
If the line you're talking about you wrote Africa, you're going to be great. That's my favorite part of that video.
Yeah. He was so funny. Like it was so natural. And it was one of those things, you know, like I used to act a little bit, you know, I was never great, but I used to dabble. And there's this moment where he goes, hey, it's Fall Out Boy, and they're trying to kidnap Rivers Cuomo. He yells and he calls himself a third person. And there's this look on my face that was kind of genuine, because I was like, you know, in the moment, you're like, he sold us out, man. He really he put it into it. It was great.
Just the confidence of, you wrote Africa, you're gonna be great. And he goes, you're right. And then he hangs up the phone. I go, Jesus, that tells me that you guys haven't lost what you had to begin with. That's my tell for you guys, is that line doesn't need to be there. You could have easily not done a line. You could have had something far more pedestrian, but you wrote Africa, which I went the first time on YouTube, I'm clicking back and listening to it again, and I was like,
and I love my favorite thing is the way he goes is like the way his body language, and he's like, yeah, that's true.
He's so matter of fact about it. One, not to go too far back, but I did notice recently on Instagram somebody sent you, I think it was a friend of yours, sent you a flyer of your old band Patterson. And an old band flyer. I love that just kind of still pops up. Was that the same time? Were you in that band the same time as the Record Store? Or was that those are different years?
Yeah. So Patterson was the last band I was in before Fall Out Boy. And it was I played drums in that, and we were really and it was weird because I had started playing with a lot of the bands that, you know, we ended up with that Fall Out Boy ended up playing with. So, you know, there was this band Knockout that had Damar, who ended up being in Plain White Tees. And there's this band 504 Plan, who was really important in Chicago. We you know, they kind of gave way to the Academy Is, if you remember that, you know, that band. And so Patterson was kind of one of the also rans in that. And it was the last time I played drums. And it was really funny to see those old flyers. You know, it's weird because in my mind, those things happen so far apart, but then you look at it and it was like, I was only in other bands for about like 4 years, you know, but to me, it was like, you know, I was doing bands for, you know,
forever.
Decades before, you know, whatever.
Well, I'm glad you're in this one. I'm glad everything's going so great, man. Thank you so much for the time, Patrick. I'm going to go out and probably see the Wrigley Field show. I know you guys are playing over by like west of here, Somerset, I think is the other one. I'm not really familiar with it. So I'm going to check out the closer one and hit Wrigley up when you guys play in June. So I will see you then, if not before, man. Safe travels and all the best.
Thanks a lot. Good to talk to you.